Hi and welcome everyone. It's Lavender Sky Panther with you for another card reading. It's Monday, June 26th, 2023, and I'm going to try to flow and be a little swift on this one. There's a lot to say, so let's see what comes up in the reading. I did pre-select just to let things flow a little bit. So we're going to start off with these 4 cards. I will put the names of the decks in the description box below. So we're starting off with the Scribe, and I'll just read them as a pair. The Scribe and Reflection. And we have number 12 and number 19, which can also be a 3 or 10 or 1. And as we move along, I'll kind of move along to the next pair too, and then talk about all of them. So you can check out the scenes here. We're going to move over, and the next pair is 2 of Forces, the Willow, and 8 of Forces, the Lightning Bolt. Okay, so right off at the beginning, when we look at the Scribe, we have a few scribes, it seems. There's one at the podium, a little pedestal there, and there are 3, it looks like, in a little grouping in the back. You can see some drafts discarded to the floor. There's wood actually represented in all of these cards. You know, we've got the wood of the wooden floor and the furniture, the trims, everything going on, the rafters. We have potentially, wood with the boat, maybe even the mast and the trees in the background, some of the houses. The willow, obviously, we've got the wood, and the lightning bolt hitting the tree. We've got wood represented everywhere. That might come up again later, something that's important. But in the meantime, we're looking at the different scribes. So my attention is drawn to, in this pairing, we've got the soul sailboat down in the right-hand corner. So I'm looking at the figure, even this figure to the left, he's wearing kind of white robes. So I want to focus on that figure and not the 3 in the back. And what comes to mind is writing your own story. It's a time for reflection. Oh, and by the way, I didn't mention at the beginning, this is just a general reading, for the collective, so there's no picking of piles this time. So what I'm sensing is to focus on the lone figure here. He's really focused and writing something that's maybe more customized to his own story. Whereas the 3 in the back just remind me of maybe more of a production house type thing, where they're just kind of writing or even just copying other manuscripts, just to build up the library. Where this one to the left, he's writing his own innovative story. That's what I'm going with. And so it's a time to reflect on what kind of story are you going to write. Is it a story of your own life? Do you need to really look in the mirror and go within and figure out what that is? Or is it, something from imagination? Or it could even be something that is just journaling, dream time. We've got the moonlight scene here. Maybe it's a matter of writing down, as soon as you wake up or can remember to do it, what your dreams may have been, and start to have a nice collection of stories. As you know. Dreamtime stories often don't make sense. They seem really bizarre and have a lot of imagery and symbolism in them. So maybe you're even somebody who wants to start writing but has no idea where to start or what to do. Well, this might be a little start for you. Start writing your dreams, and maybe that can inspire you further, to write something more in depth and more introspective with reflection and something of that nature. So getting to nature, we have the willow. As I said, we've got the wood imagery. So when we get to here, the willow is alongside water. It can be known, as a water tree. I want to recommend you to go see a specific video over at the YouTube channel called The Healthy American with Peggy Hall. She has one of her lives, recent lives. She talks about the fires going on in Canada, and she has a guest who is a specialist in trees, and he discusses a lot of the properties of how different trees burn or do not burn. And I think the name of the video is something like Looking for Clues in the Canadian Fires. And he does talk about the willows, I think at about the 12-minute mark in there. So go check that out. It's very interesting, very fascinating what he has to say about all the different types of trees and how they interact or don't with fire. So in this case, he was saying that the willow is so full of water that, it really doesn't catch fire easily because it's, filled with water, massively so. And so that just reminds me to bring that up because we look to the right and we've got lightning, like splitting this tree. So that's another thing about going back to the scribe and what kind of story are you going to write? Is it about your own life, or is it something kind of fantastical or based on a true story? And, we've got this tree, this willow representing, emotions with the water. They even call it weeping willow, nickname for some of these trees. Or is it going to be like an explosive drama, something that really, it just gets in and wakes people up, or is it simply a story that inspires, like that crack of lightning could be that eureka moment where the light bulb turns on and you're like really getting into something. Whatever the case, it's just something to think about, as far as how is that story going to shape up, what's it going to look like, what's it going to be involving. Just kind of a calm, kind of straightforward, what do they call it, autobiography or biography, or are we going to get into some really explosive action adventure, that type of thing. All right, anyway, we're going to move down below the scribe. We're kind of going to read all over the place in different directions with these different decks. The second row has a different deck, and on the left hand side we have this kind of like a wounded warrior. He is not looking too happy. He's been through it. You can just see it. He's got bandages on the forearm, on the bicep, on the knee. The guy in the back, man, just looks like he's wounded under the, in the heart or under the arm, all very forlorn. But yet this character, who could be, one that's being written about, is kind of like our wounded warrior hero, even though he's been through it all, he still holds his most powerful sword, with strength. It's not lagging behind like the other guy. And in fact, he's even holding and picking up two more, off the field. So this guy has been through it, but he is all tower and strength and just keeps plowing ahead no matter what. Opposed to this other character that could be, written in this story by the scribe. But look at this. He's just sitting pretty. He doesn't even want to get his hands dirty. He's even wearing gloves, you see, while these guys are toiling away, with the scythe in the background in the fields doing hard labor. He's just kind of sitting there enjoying it, and the fact that he even has his dog. I'm surprised he doesn't have a lapdog at the moment. Nothing judging or wrong with it, just two very different types, of leading men, you could say, leading characters going on potentially in the story you might write, or in this story that we're talking about now. Now here, we're going to look at reflection. We're going to move over to reflection, and below that we have the Empress. And I had to put this is a dried sunflower leaf across her chest because she was exposing a little too much for this reading. It is a family show. Nothing wrong with a beautiful human body, but, just doing it for that. And it's funny, it happens to be, it was the only dried sunflower petal left on the table. I had a bouquet of about 4 or 5 sunflowers, and they dried up. It just seems appropriate because she is sitting on an earthen, and a rock, a stone, as her throne. And she pretty much has command over the night and the daytime. I'm going to say that's daytime in the upper right. And so she's leaning toward the daytime, and, the sunflower can represent the sun, or the sun card, in the tarot deck. So it's just very appropriate. So yes, she's representing abundance, blossoming, birthing new things, bounty. But I also like that she's sitting on a stone throne, because that stone throne absorbs sun all day long, just absorbs that warmth and that heat. So she does comfortably command the day and the night, because the nighttime she's not going to be cold, even bare, because of that throne is nice and warm. It radiates the heat off in the night. And why am I saying that? Well, we look up here too. We've got the trees sitting in the sun. We've got this crack of lightning happening at night. It's just kind of even with her staff, the way she's sitting, she's comfortably commanding it all. I didn't make the point I wanted to there, so bear with me. I probably shouldn't be doing this. I'm a little tired, but hang in there with me. Anyway, the point is, what is her story? If you can command the day and the night comfortably and give birth to new things, it seems like there's a really good story in there, especially when you look at the willow. It can also be representing kind of a tree of life type of thing, with the beautiful burst of light going on behind it. It's almost magical. Even the waters are sparkling. And so anyway, we've got a lot of beautiful imagery here, and obviously with the tree here And the fascinating thing is with this tree over here, even though it's being, apparently split in two, a lot of these trees are incredibly resilient. So from the outside, they may look charred, but the inside, they're still full of life, depending on the tree. And again, I invite you to go look at that YouTube show, Looking for Clues in the Canada Fires, to even read into a little bit more and learn a little bit more if you're not familiar with it already, how the trees, react when they're subjected to certain things. That's all I'll say for now. Anyway, it's interesting. We also have water presenting in the foreground of the lightning bolt card. Anyway, there's more to say, but I'm going to move along. Okay, now we're going to go beneath the willow where we've got the water running, and then we get to this card to the lower left. I'm going to do it with a pair left and right here. But in the lower left, we have two men, and they are fighting it. They're trying to keep a flood, all these flood waters from coming toward them. Got one man, he's all brawn, muscle, and not looking too excited there. And then we have what we can consider like brain and brawn next to each other, where this guy is maybe the engineer of this thing, propping up the sandbags with the wooden posts. And they're just trying to keep that water out, right? Meanwhile, we got the woodchuck. I believe it's a woodchuck, which is also known as a groundhog. The woodchuck, though, is the older name, I believe, if the sources are correct that I was just reading before, kind of going over this overall reading. Supposedly, the word woodchuck was just misconstrued from settlers coming into the native, North America. And apparently, I believe it was the Cree word woodchuck. And so they, took it for woodchuck. So it doesn't have anything to do with wood like a beaver does. At first, I thought it was a beaver, but the tail is different. So I believe it is just the woodchuck. And the woodchuck's looking and saying, like, what? You're dealing with adversity. What are you doing trying to engineer the heck out of it? I can, just burrow under it, or go around it, He's got the on the right-hand side, the woodchuck has the swords up there, but they're not stopping him from doing anything. He can go around either side or go even underneath and be, use his ingenuity. So here these guys are really struggling to keep the water out. And again, the water, it could be just also representing a flood of emotions back into our scribe writing a story theme of this reading. It can also just be, this is kind of the point in the story where it gets, pretty dicey. And that's where the real action, starts to happen, like the lightning. And we, start to wonder then what's going to be happening. So again, the woodchuck, really could care less. Anyway, we go below even this. Actually, I'll go below in a minute. Let's go over one more. Then we get to a pretty exciting scene. If we relate this woman here, she is running away in terror from these bats that are, seemingly following her. She's got all these swords preventing her from going that direction anyway. And so it's almost like she went up toward the swords and then all hell broke loose when she tried to do so. So this one is clearly running away from her fears. You can imagine, like, if she were in this scene, she would be doing the same thing, hands up, running away, right, from this lightning bolt, kind of rightly so. And a side note, I wanted to mention that when lightning comes down in grounds, at least where I am at, if you're in a house, they always run a grounding wire to a lightning rod and grounding wire to a cold water pipe on the house, and then it goes down into the ground from there. And growing up, we were always told, stay out of the shower, if it's lightning. And I believe that's because then if it's grounding to the cold water pipe, then that current could run right up to your drain and zap you. So that's just a very sidebar note. Anyway, back to our woman running in terror. Understandably so, if you got a whole, that's a lot of bats after her, right? So the interesting thing is, why is she running away in fear? And this is just another maybe message to conquer your fears. What would happen if she turned around and faced that whole scene? Okay, maybe that wouldn't be a great idea. But like our guys over here, trying to be, use creativity and ingenuity and engineering creative ways to keep that water out. Maybe she could, instead of running, shrieking in terror, she could be a little more proactive and find some ways around harnessing. Instead of harnessing, trying to prevent the power of the water, she could maybe come up with new ideas to just naturally make the bats her allies and not her enemies. So she could put essential oils around, supposedly, I haven't tested this out, but supposedly things like mint and I think clove and cinnamon and eucalyptus, essential oil scents, would kind of keep them away naturally, make a natural boundary without the swords. You don't need the swords to try to keep them out. Or she could build a bat box or a bat house and have it, put it on the property where she would like. And then that way they would all go to the box, and that would be their little habitat, and they take care of mosquitoes and things off the property. So that could be really good. So anyway, it's kind of turning nature, instead of fighting it, be friends with it. To the extent that I'm saying that, instead of running from the fears, face them. She could even take a parasol, like this parasol, an umbrella, and open it up and have it over her, and she wouldn't have to run away in terror like that, right? Facing the fears and doing it with grace and poise and style. Now we'll kind of go back in reverse. We'll go backwards. This one says, follow your dreams and help will find you in unforeseen ways. And this card, she's dealing with all these little fairies. She's got a whole group, there to support her. This is supposed to tie into this groundhog, and in that case, I would just say that this one can be standalone, or it can just burrow back into its little burrow and go to the little sleeping chamber where the whole family is and have instant support. Sometimes that support isn't visible on the surface. You've got support in other ways. These days, you might not have friends readily around or family, but you can connect with them online, for help if you need it. All right, now we're going to slide over here, and we have, don't push the river, let it flow. Look at this one. She's just poised, resting nicely. This is a little bit of a break front, or what do you call it? Seawall of sorts, holding the water at bay, pun intended. And she's so relaxed. She knows the water's just doing its thing and letting it flow. She's not worried about it. Here, it might be time just to let all of this go. Why are you trying to fight nature and overcome it? Let it flow. Let it do what nature does best, and let it flow. Okay, then we're going to come over here to, you are in co-creation with the universe. And she's in all her glory, holding up this sphere. Nothing can stop her. She's on top of the world, type of thing. Everything's illuminated and clear. Clarity is there in that crystal sphere or ball. And that ties back into our Empress, right? So she's got a lot of spheres, kind of matching sphere to what's on her staff, and sparkling. So sky's the limit. There is no limit. There is, actually, even no sky. Just looking up beyond into the cosmos and into the stars is what they both seem to be doing, in these two scenes, letting the magic happen. Okay, then we come over here. Express your creativity in a way that is fun. So we've got all these mermaids just playing, no matter what's going on in that ocean and above it. And that ties in with our little sitting pretty boy over here. He's doing things, he's just having fun. I don't know what he's actively doing, but he seems very content and having a fun time. Okay. And maybe playing with the dog later, going outside, but he's definitely not going to be toiling in the field, that's for sure. Okay, so then now here you have the ability to prosper. And here we have this woman poised there with the peacock and with all its plumage. There's plenty of abundance. Prosperity is hers. And then that ties into our kind of wounded warrior. He may look downtrodden, but he's got all the strength in the world, and he's even picking up extra bounty and the spoils of war, it looks like. Except, it doesn't have to be gold, but he's picked up wisdom. He's picked up, insights that can't be replaced, and maybe more than he wanted to, maybe things he doesn't want to, but he's got an abundance of knowledge and even, property. Okay. So anyway, tying that all back to the story. What is the story that you're going to write for yourself from now forward? Maybe it's not fiction. Maybe this is the story of your life you need to examine and do some reflection. Maybe this is an interesting reminder to do that. And to remember that at any point that you are, you can always rewrite, the things on the floor, toss it out. If you're not happy with it, start again. That's absolutely possible. Well, I think I'm going to end here for now. Oh, you know what I will do? I'll just pick one more card for fun and just see if there's one last message that wants to come through in one card. And I know this was wandering all over the place, but hopefully you got something out of it. And I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to pick this one. And let's just see if we have any other things that want to come out. And I should have known this would come out. I pulled this actually yesterday for myself. Two of Scrolls, and it's called Two Worlds. And I really like the imagery on this. We've got, she's looking, at the fire. On the one half of the card, it's dark. It looks like toiling and work, got the spindle. But there's gold right in the center of the room. She's not even looking at it. She's just kind of looking at all the work she's got to do and kind of missing the golden moment there, being present right there in the middle and looking at what all she has around her. But in the meantime, the window seems to align with that gold. Like if she would just kind of turn and look the other way, she would see the gold and she would see a gorgeous, much lighter mood and beautiful garden and things happening in the outside. So it is a choice. Sometimes we're down in the dumps. That's one world of depression, and the other side of it would be happiness, or looking toward the golden moments and the positives, even in the darkest of situations. So it is a choice, and she's standing right between the two, and she could easily pivot one way or the other to get a totally different view. And maybe that's a message today too, that wherever you're at right now, just remember it is a choice to see only the darkness or the misery, or to see only the positive aspects. And there's time to dip into each one, but to keep the balance. She is kind of, even though she is facing in one direction, she is kind of balanced in the middle of this whole scene, and she's aligned with the gold at her feet. So anyway, just know that wherever you're at in this in-between situation, if you're feeling a little in between, just know that you have everything at your disposal to change that outlook just by changing your point of view and changing your perspective. And maybe getting back to the scribe, if you feel stuck or aren't seeing it, maybe just break out some paper and just start writing. Don't even have it structured or worry about anything. They have a thing called automatic writing. Just put your pen to the paper, and yes, pen to paper, or pencil to paper. There's a very different thing of doing that than just typing something in on your phone or an iPad or some kind of electronic device. There's a definite different flow of current when we talk about the tree and the water flowing through it. We are the tree as well, and we've got our creative juices flowing through it. And there is something very different about letting divine inspiration flow from the ethers down through your brain and into your body, a very physical thing, and embody it and have it connected to your hand and the pen on the paper. And so maybe if you don't really do that, now's the time to try it. And even if you do it and haven't done it in a while, it's a great time to start again. I'm going to do it myself after this reading. So anyway, and I hope you enjoyed it. And in the meantime, tremendous peace and love to everyone. Lavender Sky Panther. Bye. Thanks for stopping by.